Tonight, a mass killing in an Ottawa suburb. 6 people dead, including 4 children, the youngest just 2 months old. The horrifying discovery in a quiet neighborhood.
This is a big tragedy has happened in our street.
And the court appearance of the suspect charged with multiple counts of murder. A tragic plane crash and a community's grief as it mourns the loss of a family of 5.
I just can't believe that they're not here.
Also, a pivotal State of the Union for a deeply divided America.
Good evening. Everybody back.
Plus, protesters clash north of Toronto over a real estate event promoting land in the West Bank. And ringing in a medical breakthrough.
We're interested in sensing vital signs.
The welcome reception for a potentially life-saving antenna.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. 24 hours after the worst mass killing in Ottawa's history, there is still shock and horror at how a newly arrived family from Sri Lanka had their Canadian dream shattered in an instant. Tonight, a vigil to honor the young family. The vicious attack claimed the lives of a 35-year-old mother, Darshini Ekanyake, and her 4 children. The father survived in serious but stable condition. A family friend was also killed. The family had reportedly thrown a birthday party for the alleged killer just days ago. The 19-year-old international student, also a Sri Lankan national, had been living with the family. He has been charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. CTV's Jeremy Charon is at the crime scene tonight. Just devastating. Jeremy, what can you tell us?
Omar, it all happened here in this Ottawa neighborhood, normally quiet like it is now. But last night, this was the scene of a horrific crime.
A late-night mass killing shocking this Ottawa suburb of Barrhaven.
Oh my God, this is a big tragedy has happened in our street.
Police say shortly after 11 Wednesday night, officers were called here and found 6 people dead inside this home, including 4 children.
Officers entered the home to check on the safety of those inside, and that is where they began to discover the 6 victims, the youngest of which is less than 3 months old.
The family were newcomers to Canada, originally from Sri Lanka. A mother and her 4 children, aged 2 months, 2 years, 4, and 7. A 6th man was also found dead, an acquaintance who was living in the house.
Obviously, our first reactions are all ones of shock and horror at this terrible violence.
This news has shaken many residents throughout Ottawa, and of course, it's particularly troubling to neighbors and anyone living in Barrhaven.
The suspect, a 19-year-old man, was living in the home as well. He was arrested at the scene. Police say the victims were killed using a knife-like object. Police haven't determined a motive yet. That is the focus of their investigation, they say. The husband and father of the victims was seriously injured and is in hospital. Neighbors describe a chaotic scene and the frantic father.
But I just saw after all the police cars came, the ambulance came, there's a lot of flashlights and all those things. And I came out, I said, okay, what's happening? Then I saw one guy was sitting on the left side of the driveway and he was yelling.
A huge police presence with, there must have been 10, 15 cop cars. And then a whole bunch of ambulances showed up, which is unusual. Usually there's 1 or 2, any kind of scene or whatnot, but there was like 7 or 8 here.
This incident has absolutely shocked this neighborhood and community who quite simply, Omar, just aren't used to dealing with things like this.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. As Jeremy mentioned, the murders have plunged the community in a state of grief. CTV's Judy Trin on how the family is being remembered tonight.
Pain has drawn this suburban neighborhood together to mourn a family. The Wickramasinghes moved to Canada recently from Sri Lanka for a new beginning that's now broken.
It's heartbreaking as a mother for me to see 4 young children's souls taken away.
Sad and shocking because I'm father of 4 as well too, like here in this neighborhood.
The dad, Danushka Wickramasinghe, is in hospital recovering after being slashed. His wife, Darshani, was killed along with their 4 children. The youngest, Kelly, was a newborn. Their oldest son, Inuka, 7 years old. Gamini Amarkun, an acquaintance who also lived in the house, was also killed. The Wickramasinge's two oldest children attended this elementary school. One was in grade 2, the other in kindergarten.
It's pretty distressing to know that 6 people died, that 4 were babies, children.
What is more inconceivable is that the suspected killer is a young man who lived in the same house. 19-year-old Fabio de Souza made a quick appearance in court. He's an international student who attended Algonquin College but didn't enroll this term. He's been charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. Police are reaching out to the local Sri Lankan community for help to determine motive.
This morning, I was able to connect with some incredible leaders who gave me a lot of good advice, support, and help, which we've then passed down to our service. So very grateful in the time of great distress in their community that they're helping us as much as they can.
The Sri Lankan High Commission is assisting Ottawa Police in notifying next of kin. The family is originally from the city of Colombo, but here in this Ottawa suburb, a steady stream of people have been visiting this vigil all night to pay their respects to a family senselessly torn apart. Omar.
Judy Train at the vigil for that family tonight. Judy, thank you. A community near Toronto is also mourning another family tonight. A couple and their 3 children were the victims of a deadly plane crash in Nashville earlier this week. CTV's Adrian Gabriel on the tragic loss.
In Victor Dasenko's final words, the husband and father of 3 shared this heartbreaking message with air traffic control.
I'm too far away, I won't make it. My engines are down.
Parents Victor and Rima Dasenko and their 3 children, 12-year-old David, 10-year-old Adam, and 7-year-old Emma, all died Monday evening when the single-engine plane they were flying in crashed near an interstate in Nashville, Tennessee.
It's very hard.
The Datsenkos were members of this synagogue north of Toronto. Victor even put up these new windows for free. Just one of the family's many acts of generosity, recalls Rabbi Chaim Hildesim, who married the couple and helped name their children.
One of the last conversations, he says, I have to start preparing my son for his bar mitzvah. And he asked the steps to take. And sadly now, we're going to have to celebrate in a different way.
On the front steps of the now empty Dasenko family home, 3 teddy bears sit, surrounded by flowers and a growing memorial. A short drive away, the children attended this private Jewish school in Vaughan, Ontario.
They were so loved by all of their classmates, their teachers, their friends, and it's a tremendous loss.
Victor Datsenko graduated from this flight center in Brampton, Ontario in 2022 with a private pilot license. What led the family to fly a 1978 Piper plane from Ontario with confirmed stops in Erie, Pennsylvania, then Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and then towards Nashville's John C. Toone Airport still remains unclear tonight.
To ask why and how, there's no point. What we should ask is, what can we do in their memory? Let us do something to be a better person. Let us do something to bring more light into this world in memory of these 5 beautiful souls.
The details of the deadly crash are now being investigated stateside by the National Transportation Safety Board. A preliminary report is expected to be released next month. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. A pivotal moment tonight for U.S. President Joe Biden, who faced his nation in his 3rd State of the Union address.
Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
Burdened by low approval numbers, Biden spoke to millions of Americans in a high-stakes moment 8 months before voters decide whether to give him a second mandate.
What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas.
And CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Melvin joins me now. And Joy, the address at times sounding like a campaign speech, Biden making the case about why he needs those 4 more years.
Yeah, Omar, it certainly was the kickoff. The president was fired up, making a sales pitch to Americans for a second term, trying to win over skeptical voters that are worried about his mental ability and age. He's 81, his opponent Donald Trump 77. He went on the offensive tonight. He took on Trump without even saying his name. Biden said you can't love your country only when you win. That was a shot at Trump and election deniers, reminding Americans of the January 6th Capitol attack. He said democracy is at stake at home and abroad, blasting Trump for encouraging Russia to invade NATO members. And he said that he would work to restore reproductive rights for women. He was forceful, he ad-libbed, even seemed to enjoy sparring with Republican hecklers. Ending his speech, he was joking about his age, saying he has the wisdom and vision for the future and deserves another 4 years to finish the job, Omar.
Now, Joy, before Biden got to the Capitol tonight, there were protesters calling for a ceasefire near the Capitol. Tell us about those demonstrations and what the president said about the Israel-Gaza war.
Yeah, the speech started off a bit late. A massive pro-Palestinian protest shut down Pennsylvania Avenue and stopped his motorcade for a short time. Protesters demanding an end to the war. And tonight, Joe Biden made a very big announcement. Take a listen.
Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza.
The U.S. Army will help build a temporary port in Gaza to help bring much-needed humanitarian aid. The war has created a crisis for Biden, and he acknowledged Palestinian suffering tonight and the need to bring the Israeli hostages home. He's trying to assure angry voters out there that he is doing everything he can to bring about a ceasefire. Omar?
All right, Joy Melvin on Biden's State of the Union speech in Washington tonight. Joy, thank you. As for Canadian assistance in Gaza, the Prime Minister had no answer today on whether Ottawa would resume funding the UN's Palestinian Aid Agency.
We're not making any announcements today, but we will continue to make sure Canada does the right thing in this situation and puts the protection of civilian life at the forefront of everything we do.
Canada is among several countries that stopped sending money to the agency when Israel accused some of its staff of taking part in the October 7th Hamas attack 5 months ago today. That war has also triggered protests in this country, and today another outside a synagogue. CTV's Heather Wright on what triggered the dueling demonstrations.
Demonstrators clashed outside a synagogue just north of Toronto this afternoon.
Everybody back.
Police trying to separate the two sides as tensions flared.
I feel trapped here. Canada is no longer the country that I came to. Palestine is not for sale!
On one side of the street, pro-Palestinian protesters enraged by a real estate seminar happening inside.
How is Canada allowing this illegal sales event to take place here?
The great real estate event advertised having experts offering advice about purchasing properties in areas that include places in the occupied West Bank.
It is unconscionable, first of all, to be selling stolen Palestinian land.
But the synagogue's rabbi says that is just an excuse to stage a protest outside a place of worship.
We've been holding these kinds of seminars for years, where realtors from Israel come and they basically just have an informational evening to show people what's for sale.
Many members of the community say this is intimidation, not a demonstration.
You can't come to a place of worship and harass prayers and harass people for being here.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weighed in on the demonstrations that turned to hate and harassment and have targeted synagogues, Jewish-owned businesses, and community centers.
There are things to be outraged about, things that people need to continue to protest about. But hateful or harassing behavior, particularly against neighbors, is not what we do here in Canada.
Some worry these protests are escalating. An event with Trudeau and Italy's Prime Minister on Saturday in Toronto was cancelled after police deemed it unsafe to move the two politicians inside. While on Sunday in Thornhill, Ontario, a man was arrested accused of bringing a nail gun to a pro-Palestinian rally and allegedly firing it at protesters.
Police say arrests have been made here outside this synagogue today, but at this point they won't say how many or if any charges will be laid. Omar.
All right, CTV's Heather Wright near Toronto tonight. Heather, thank you. When it comes to health care, delays have become a troubling consequence of a system under strain. CTV's Garrett Barry spoke to one woman who waited almost 2 years just to have an MRI.
The kids are going to love it.
Celebrations came early this year for Alana McDonald Earl's 8-year-old daughter.
In the spur of the moment, I was like, we'll just do an early birthday. It's fine.
Her mom will be gone on her actual birthday in Nova Scotia for a 16-hour surgery to remove a 3-centimeter tumor that's pressing against her brain. The surgery comes with serious risks.
I'll be deaf on the left side after. Where the tumor is, it's close to the carotid artery and the vertebral artery, so there is a risk of stroke.
Earlier this year, she hired a photographer to take new family portraits in case she is partially paralyzed and never looks the same again, or in case she doesn't make it back home.
Like today, I was thinking, like, should I record something for my kids, like, in case I don't make it through the surgery? Like, should I do an individual, like, little video for each of them? But I don't think I can.
Her trouble started with migraines and vision issues. After almost 2 years, she was diagnosed with a tumor. The woman believes it could all have been avoided. There could have been other possible treatments if she didn't have to wait so long for the MRI that revealed her diagnosis.
Now I realize that it's totally unacceptable. Like, our system is really bad right now, really broken, really delayed, and some big changes have to happen.
Across the country, wait times for MRIs are holding steady. Most patients wait about 41 days, but in some provinces, it's much longer. In Manitoba, the average patient waits almost 100 days, and in Nova Scotia, 1 out of every 10 patients waits almost a year.
In Newfoundland, family doctors can't order MRIs, so even though McDonald Earl and her physician believed the woman needed one, she needed to wait 6 months to see a specialist who could order the test. All the while, that tumor grew.
Health officials in Newfoundland say wait times for non-urgent MRI scans can reach up to 427 days. But they hope to reduce that wait with a new scanner coming to the province this spring. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Coming up, a snapshot of a contentious debate.
We all can agree that the majority of Canadians want what's best for young people.
Canadians weigh in on gender policies. Plus, a plane loses a tire during takeoff. A closer new look tonight at opinions on a divisive issue. The poll for CTV News by Nanos Research reveals what Canadians think about policies on transgender inclusion in sports, hormone treatments for youth, and pronouns. Here's CTV's Alison Bamford.
A hot-button issue across Canada. Trans advocates and parents both fighting for rights when it comes to students and gender identity in the classroom.
We all can agree that the majority of Canadians want what's best for young people.
A new Nanos poll offers a snapshot of how the public views policies related to gender identity. 64% of respondents say they're uncomfortable with the idea of a student under 18 changing their name or pronouns without parental consent, while 62% show at least some discomfort with kids under 18 using hormone therapies for the purpose of changing their gender.
I am confident that Albertans do not want children to make irreversible decisions.
Something Alberta's recently proposed policy addresses, placing a ban on hormone therapy for anyone under the age of 15.
Puberty brings about permanent changes, and puberty blockers pause that process to allow young people a little bit more time to be certain of who they are.
Trans advocates believe a lot of the public discomfort boils down to a lack of education. Polling shows 57% are uncomfortable with a trans person playing sports against their same gender identity, while another 44% feel the same about trans people using the washroom designated for their gender.
The reality right now is that trans folks are actually a lot more at risk in spaces like washrooms or change rooms than their cisgender counterparts.
Many of these issues will be addressed within government and the courts. There's an ongoing legal battle against Saskatchewan's pronoun legislation, and the same lawyers pledge to fight Alberta's trans policies once they're introduced. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Still ahead, a mid-air scare. A near miss involving a Boeing flight and a flying tire. A Montreal teenager has died while swimming off the coast of Florida. Searchers recovered the body of the 17-year-old in the Gulf of Mexico yesterday after he went missing during swimming drills. The high schooler was visiting the area with the school's swim team for spring break. Wet and freezing weather continues to bring misery to the Maritimes, where residents are bracing for an icy night. A mix of freezing rain and snow caused localized flooding on roads and highways.
The snow is sticking to the ground and freezing in place, and that in itself will halt the flow of water to the creeks.
Up to 50 millimeters of rain in parts of Nova Scotia and 20 centimeters of snow in northern regions. And some scary moments below a United Airlines flight in San Francisco today. Watch the bottom of this Boeing 777 as it loses a tire just seconds after takeoff. The tire landed in a parking lot. No one was injured, but at least one car was badly damaged. The Japan-bound plane was diverted to Los Angeles, where it did land safely. After the break, the high-tech ring that could reshape the future of patient care. Engineers at the University of Waterloo have invented a powerful antenna small enough to fit into a ring. It's capable of transmitting critical medical data to healthcare workers and to patients. CTV's Spencer Turcotte on how it works.
It may be on Omar Ramahi's ring finger, but it's no ordinary ring.
Basically, the electronics will go into a layer underneath here.
University of Waterloo engineers have achieved a medical breakthrough. They've invented a mighty antenna, small enough to be worn like a piece of jewelry.
We're interested in sensing vital signs.
They've accomplished the first step in creating a device that can be used for non-invasive medical sensing applications, like monitoring blood and oxygen levels or tracking disease progression.
And that's actually the best way to prevent. For prevention, of course, aside from diet, exercise, healthy lifestyle.
The hope is that with constant monitoring from the device, it could provide more accurate readings compared to a short snapshot in time at a doctor's office where nerves can cause blood pressure to rise.
If we can take the healthcare, or at least monitoring healthcare signs, out of the doctor's office, I think it will be much better for all of us.
They're focused on combining the use of antennas and sensors to transmit data to a database that stores the information, but they're interested in more than just medical data.
I would say with the lifestyle of humans, and the next thing is to test it with some sensors that will be built in, integrated within this ring.
They're also expanding the jewelry tech beyond rings.
We have a very attractive, actually very nice looking bangle. Really, it competes with Gucci and Chloe and Christian Dior.
It may not be the most fashion forward, but it is at the forefront of technology, soon allowing us to know more about ourselves than we ever have before. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Waterloo.
And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather's here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching and good night.